A lot of my videos consist of thumbnail sketching where you already have subject matter in mind. But what if you just open a sketchbook and you just start throwing lines down without absolutely any idea of what you want to draw? This method that I'm showing you tonight is really beneficial for people that feel like they don't have any creativity or that they were never meant to be an artist. Because a lot of people I know desire to be able to draw, and starting out with the right materials, with quote unquote talent, which is a ridiculous thing to even talk about at this point. Like we'll get into the word talent at some point, but to be able to just open up a sketchbook and doodle what you want, I can show you how to do that. So you don't need any fancy materials. What you do need is a sketchbook if you're going to do this traditionally. And I'm using a Bic Ultra Round stick grip, or you can get the standard Bic ballpoint. So either one. You can order these off Amazon. You can get it on the store, at Walgreens, whatever. So what I want you to do is open the sketchbook up and just start throwing lines down. All right, now, those of you that do not know me, I am a creature designer / character designer for games and film. But aside from having that knowledge of just studying animals and that being a benchmark for me, it doesn't really matter what you do or you do not know when it comes to throwing lines down randomly on a page. You saw how I started this thumbnail. They were crisscrossing lines, and it was a big bubble shape up here. Now, if you're starting with a bubble shape on your own sketchbook, see where that takes you. The lines that were coming off of that bubble shape could have formed tentacles. It could have formed legs to a spaceship, maybe a robot. I just personally happened to see a creature because, hey, I am a creature designer, but that wasn't my intention to draw that. All right, so maybe some of you in there are actually drawing a helmet to a spacesuit. You might be doing a character that way. And now that I'm looking at this, it kind of does look like a crab. So maybe it's a crab from a different planet. And this is the fun that you could be having while drawing. See, because we all have that feeling of not being good enough. Like we haven't taken the right classes, or we don't possess the talent needed for it. And it's not just through art, it's through everything. The things that I'm drawing tonight could help anybody. If you're a stay-at-home parent, if you're a firefighter, if you're, a financial advisor and you just like to doodle, these little methods of sketching thumbnails can definitely help. And another thing that can help is looking for online courses if you have a hobby in mind that you want to pursue. Which brings me to today's sponsor, Craftsy. You're probably wondering what Craftsy actually is. Well, imagine this. It's an online community and a resource where millions of crafters, makers, do-it-yourself enthusiasts, they all come together to advance their skills in some way, shape, or form. There's over 2,000 exciting classes and over 20 popular categories. Some of these categories are cooking, drawing, painting. You have photography, journaling, writing, fitness. Pretty much anything that you would like to get better at, Craftsy has it. One of the many cool things about Craftsy is they're always creating new classes to keep people coming back for more, to help them in any way that they can. You can connect with fellow makers and do-it-yourself lovers to ask questions, share ideas, and stay inspired. There's nothing like having a camaraderie with like-minded individuals trying to learn what you're also trying to get better at. You can experience the satisfaction and joy of creating something truly one of a kind, and with your own two hands. You'll have access to Craftsy's live streaming tutorials, which are really cool, where our expert instructors share their tips, they answer your questions, and they also help engage with the community in real time. This is where the live classroom feeling really comes into play with Craftsy, and this is essential in feeling like you are a part of a community, trying to learn new things, trying to get better all together. Another thing that I want to point out about Craftsy classes is how they're structured. The classes fit any interest and skill level.
So you don't have to be intimidated about joining a specific course if you feel like you're not good enough to start out. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes, exciting projects, and mouth-watering recipes. Yes, if you want to learn how to cook, Crafty's got it too. With world-class instructors, they'll inspire and encourage you through every step of the creative journey. I know I'm looking forward to several classes that Craftsy has to offer, such as sketching your point of view and portrait drawing. The first 1,000 of you to click the link in the video description will get a full year of premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49, valid for new members only. And last but not least, I want to take the time to thank Craftsy for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get back to drawing.
Now, one thing that I do want to point out whenever you're doing thumbnails like this is I want you to throw out the idea that you have to be perfect when drawing these. Okay, it doesn't matter how many years you've been drawing, it doesn't matter how good you are or how bad you think you are. What matters is you're putting lines down on paper. If you're sketching digitally, then try not to Control Z anything. You know, we have that luxury of digital sketching where if we don't like it, we just Control Z it. Hey, I've caught myself drawing traditionally and trying to Control Z it in my head. And I'm just sitting there going, I'm either going crazy or I really have been, you know, my brain has been warped by using Photoshop for so long. But the great thing about this is that we can just draw it and then we can move on. So we move on next. Now, let's go over again how to put random lines down. Each one of us has a specific angle that we like to apply lines on a paper. Every single person listening right now and watching this does that, even if you feel like you can't even draw a stick figure. I like to do curved shapes, so I like to see how my lines interact when I curve them. All right, now as far as pen pressure or pencil pressure, whatever tool you're using, I like to start the line off applying a little bit of pressure and then releasing it as I end it, regardless of how long or short the line is. By doing this, it starts to add in some texture. It starts to show me some shapes that I didn't know was originally going to be there. Okay, now I'm just traveling around this thumbnail, putting these random shapes in. It could be anything. It could be a sea urchin. It could be a strange plant. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be a plant. So let's see what happens. All right, so it has this twisting motion. Okay, so I kind of was thinking, hey, if I have these plant petals up here, flower petals, then maybe the stem can be a little crooked. So let's do that. Okay, the next thing I want you all to look for, if you're drawing along with me right now, look where all the darkest lines are. Even if you drew the entire thing lightly, there are going to be some lines in here where they're going to be darker than the others. Like for example, this tiny little bit right here, and it looks like this petal of a plant sticking out over here. So let's see if we can play up that darker one, and then that part right up here. Okay, does it look like anything? Kinda. Maybe we can just add this one up here, and then the third one coming off. Now it kind of looks like a plant, or a very strange one. But I'm not convinced yet, so let's start adding things to it. All right, I have this weird, almost spider web look. It kind of looks like a fan, like a very weird organic fan. Okay, there we go. So what I did here was I took the three, they look like arms, and then I took that weird circular thing, and now it looks like the arms are holding it. See, we're getting into strange territory there. This is truly organic stuff. All right, so if this is a plant, like I originally was thinking, maybe we can do some vine shapes. I need to change up this large area in here because it's a little boring. So I'm just going to start to put in these circles. Now you're probably wondering, wait a minute, how did you know to put in the circles? It's like, I didn't. I just randomly chose a shape to put in there. And these look, I don't know, circles kind of remind me of gross spider, like spider eggs and spider babies and spider eyes. Spiders. They're just weird, but they're cool. So I was thinking, hey, let's mix a plant with a spider. And now this thing is turning out. It's not even a creature. It could be a fungus on a different planet, or maybe a weird like mushroom. Who knows? Okay, so what I did here was, since I established most of the shape for the thumbnail, I darkened the areas where I was confident to know that I did not want to change anything else about it. Like, I was pretty happy with the fact that, okay, this underbelly right here was dark. I don't want to draw anything else out there. And then these little lumps right here, I know that I didn't want to go past it with any kind of new design. So what I'll do is I'll stay inside of it. This has turned out to be pretty biomechanoid. So now what I'm doing, I have plenty of darker lines in there. Now what I'm doing is just putting in a little bit more detail, more than I did with this one. I think this is more hard surface mixed with organics. Think of that Tom Cruise movie called Oblivion that came out. I think that was like about a decade ago. It was a really good movie. I liked it a lot. A lot of the sci-fi elements in there were very clean, very organic looking, but they were still hard surface. Ooh, are those little eyeballs picking off the side of this hand? I don't know. I have no idea what is happening right now. I think I better stop this drawing. This is what happens when you start doing thumbnail sketching. Let's move on. Let's see what happens on this one. All right, let's do a thumbnail that I normally don't do, and that's an elongated one, sideways. So here I go again with the very, very light lines, and it looks like I have a spaceship already. I think we just have that in our heads, that if we see a long shape, it's either going to be a weapon, it's going to be a car, or it's going to be a spaceship. Because spaceships and weapons actually look pretty similar. I remember seeing Aliens for the first time, and seeing the Sulaco and all those crazy ship designs, and they just look like the pulse rifle. It looks like a spaceship if you were to put that in space. Okay. Well, yeah, it could be a spaceship, or a personalized little ship that you could just fly around. But let's see. This particular thumbnail, I'm just going to keep sketchy. I'm not quite confident in these shapes yet. Just going to see what happens. Okay, so we got, it looks like the cab is right here. And then we have the belt line, which is this one. Okay, and then the underbelly of this, there's a lot going on in here. So much so that it looks like that shape that I had already scribbled could be something. That's the tip of the wing, and then the back of the ship, and then maybe the opening of it right here. So at this point, you're probably wondering, where is this sketch going to take us? Let's find out what's going to happen. If you're finding yourself doing these weird little spaceship designs, just know that the silhouette is one of the most important things that you can do when it comes to just thumbnailing in general. Is the silhouette readable? A good way to do that is if you take a magic marker and you just color over everything, all the lines and everything. If the edges are readable, then you got something. And I actually think that this particular ship is probably a little too lumpy to be anything recognizable. And these lines that I'm drawing in here, I don't know. I don't know if I'm too happy with it. I could always come back to this at a later time, but if I spend too much time on it, then it's not a failure, but it's not going to help my cause. So I might just leave that thumbnail and then come back to it. But let's start numbering these. 2 and then 3. Okay, let's move on to one down here. So again, let's see what we can do. Maybe we'll do a critter this time. All right, so without thinking about the head, the legs, tail, tentacles, anything, I'm just going to start putting lines down. Light lines, and then slightly darker lines, and then medium lines. When I say lighter lines, medium lines, it just means dark, medium, light. So I'll say if it's going to be darker or maybe not. Now this one's going to be a little similar to that crazy critter up here. The only difference is the ends of the legs are going to be a little skinnier, almost mechanical-like, to the point where I don't really need to draw many organic shapes once I get past the hip joint. I know these are the hip joints up here. This is the body. Okay, so it's like a big dome for a body. And then in here, it could be like little joints. This is one of the reasons why I love drawing with a ballpoint pen. Now I could color this. Let's see if we can do that. Maybe put a little human up there driving it. Just like a little pilot. How about two pilots? They're just chilling, looking at us. Like, what are you guys doing? I don't know if that's gonna work. Okay, now we can start adding some color. So hopefully these little lessons, these little sketch lessons here, are helping you guys come up with some cool ideas. My intention with this was to show you that no matter your skill level, if you're lacking in certain areas technically, if you think like you don't really know how to come up with any good ideas, you have every right to just scribble and see where it takes you. You also have every right to hate what you do. It's okay. It's actually healthy to be a little disappointed in your artwork, okay? Because that's what makes you stronger. And it makes you stronger because if you're able to self-edit and self-criticize without going overboard, because there's self-editing and then there's self-sabotage. Those are two big differences. Okay, a lot of people sabotage their own creativity because they think that they suck before they even start sketching. And what that does is it sets them up for failure. Okay. Now, there are things that I'm confident that I don't think I would draw well. Okay. And there are things that I'm confident that I know I could draw well. But even in the things where I do draw well, I still mess up. And that's totally okay. Like this spaceship right here is probably one of the ugliest things I've ever drawn. I don't even like that color combo. But hey, I'm going to leave this sketch because there could be some potential in making it look even better at a later time. All right, let's choose a different color for our little friend down here. How about this very cool lime green? Let's just do that, a little green here, maybe on the leg. Okay, and we got that. Hopefully you can see all that. And last but not least, we're going to take some black and we're going to put a silhouette or a vignette behind these. Okay, this will be fun. Okay, so in my previous videos I've shown you how to do this, but I want to go over it again. If you've never done this before and you have no idea how to even apply a vignette, if the shape that you drew is complicated, then the vignette will be simple. If the shape that you drew is simple, then you have more leniency in doing a complicated vignette. This particular one is rather simple, but complex at the same time. So I'm going to play it safe and only have maybe a small square behind our entire shape. Because there's some organics in there, but they're not really complicated. So we'll do that. Maybe we'll add some flair on the side of it. There we go. That's one vignette. Now we'll try two. I always like doing either rectangles or full-on squares if they're going to remain simple, because the edges of these shapes are straight and you don't need to worry about any eye-catching, like weirdly drawn things on the side, other than maybe like a little dot here and there, just for personal touch. and then you're done. Okay, and then for the ship, you could do something like, well, I will say this. If there's a specific area on your thumbnail that you want to show off, then put the vignette in the proximity of that you want to show off. So for example, if I wanted to show off that grill, then I'll just put the vignette near the grill. And then I'll outline everything, something like that, and that'll help. Okay, and then you maybe like put some cool fancy stuff on that side. And then for this one, this is a pretty complex one, but it's also small, so I can probably put like a rectangle behind everything. So another thing that I want to mention is if I want to put a vignette behind some of these shapes, I also want to leave the subject that I drew slightly outside of the box because it adds some interest to it. Those fellow industrial designers watching this right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know what it does, but it just helps add interest to it. Okay, and another thing, I might be running a risk here, but I'm going to try this and I might fail because this thing might bleed. But I'm going to outline the bottom with a marker to show that there could be shadow underneath there. Now everything's pretty scribbly under here with my pen. And then I'm going to do it across the ground. Alright, that's kind of cool. And then of course, color in that, color in that. Failure? Maybe. There we go. So that, my friends, is how you can quickly do some doodles. And I don't want you to worry about your skill level when you're doing this. Okay? Just get some markers. If you don't have markers, get some colored pencils, crayons, whatever. Scribble some shapes on. Rewatch the video. Pause it if you have to. See how I put these lines down. You're going to get better over time. Okay? Now, and I'll show you this page too. All right? So you can start to see the power when you collect these images. Okay, this was from a previous video, so if you want to watch that one, just make sure you watch my latest thumbnail videos about it. Okay, but these are all part of a bigger game here, I guess you could say. You want to fill the sketchbooks up with these little doodles. And before we sign off tonight, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Craftsy, for sponsoring today's video. Check the links in the description below. I will see y'all later. Peace.